What's up, everybody, and welcome into another episode of Krunch Time. As always, we're joined with Max Williams. Max, how's it hanging?
It's going good, Kruck. How you doing, man?
Man, dude, I am getting ready for summer. The groundhog said he saw his shadow, which means apparently 6 more weeks of winter, but, I'm calling weighing on that because I'm out here contemplating wearing shorts versus pants every day, so I think summer's getting close.
Exactly. Sometimes you and me, Kruck, call baseball games. I'm wondering, do I want to wear jeans today or want to wear shorts when I'm out there with you? Because the sun's coming out, man. It's starting to get 60s there, 62, 63.
I mean, hey, nothing like 65 and sunny, right? We both actually brought a guest in today. My guest is Dylan Mendoza, or Mijo. Mijo, how's it hanging?
I'm doing good. How are you, Kruck?
Man, dude, it's lovely to be here. First time you're on the show this week, huh?
This is the first time.
Excited? You got a little nervous?
Very excited. Of course, the nerves always kick in. Just gonna talk about the sports and what we're gonna cover today.
Absolutely. And then Max, you brought a guest too. You want to introduce
Yeah,
him?
absolutely. I brought my man J-Rob. He plays in the defense here for the football team. Man, how you feeling?
Man, Max, I'm feeling great. Thanks for having me here today, man.
Absolutely, bro. Kruck, I think we're ready, man. Let's get it.
One last thing. Dylan, how does it feel that, we block both of these two all the time? And, the only time we don't block them is when we allow them
Yeah,
to
we
crunch
just
time.
noticed this. Kruck had to introduce the offensive star. I introduced the defensive star here, so it's kind of like, got a battle going on.
I mean, looking at it this year, our defense was better than our offense, so we can't really hold you guys against that. But I mean, let's get started. Not talking about football anymore because the Chiefs obviously already won. And I mean, side note, there is currently a Sodgate going on. I don't know if you guys caught this, but the man who has been in charge of every single field preparation for the Super Bowl since the very first Super Bowl, it's been the same dude. His all 57 years.
Oh, wow.
Came out as a Chiefs fan 3 years ago. And looking at the percentages, the Kansas City Chiefs slipped on the turf 13% of defensive plays, while the Eagles slipped on the turf 38% of plays, almost tripling the Chiefs. The Eagles actually had to switch cleats halfway through. The Chiefs did not have to switch cleats because they brought the proper cleats from kickoff. What do you guys think of that? Do you think this is an actual gate, or do you think it's just blown out of the water?
Well, I mean, you could clearly tell that it was something going on with the turf. You seeing Hassan Reddick coming on a pass rush, he's slipping. You see that pass rush that usually getting there all season, not getting there that night. Patrick Mahomes wasn't really pressured that much. And you could definitely see the difference. So I do believe it's a side gate going on there. They need to look into
I mean, I don't know. I mean, we've seen a lot of things like the Deflategate happen in the past with the Patriots and all that, and you had this, but I think at the end of the day, they still found a way to play the game throughout. And if you find a way to play the game throughout, I don't think it's totally that much of a deal looking at it, but it is interesting that you said that apparently affected the Eagles way more than the Chiefs, so that is an interesting take for sure.
So apparently we have a closet Chiefs fan here, and he's no longer a Bengals fan. Is that what I'm hearing, Mijo?
That is exactly what you're hearing. For me, on the cleat situation, they had changed their cleats. I believe it was 3 inches of cleats, and they switched it to 2.5-inch cleats, I believe. And I'm not going to lie, the shoe game on Jalen Hurts was it was there that night.
I mean, yeah, he switched from Jordan 11s with his number on the back to Jordan 1s.
That cleat game is insane.
All right, well, let's hop right into things as we have them scheduled on the slate. The NBA, we haven't talked about them for a while, but right now we're in that in-between season from baseball and football, our two main sports. So, Max, I'm going to give you the reins on this one.
Yeah.
Catch us up and talk a little bit about the NBA. What is something that a casual fan doesn't know but probably needs to know?
Well, looking at it, some of the top teams in the Eastern Conference, specifically in the NBA, are the Boston Celtics and Milwaukee Bucks. Right now, Boston Celtics led by Jason Tatum, and they're 42-17, Krug. Looking at it, I still remember last time we did talk about the NBA, I thought Jason Tatum was one of the best players that's still in the NBA right now. He's a rising star, and I think people still don't appreciate everything he does for his team. And, I mean, another team, too, the Bucks have been consistent. I mean, Giannis is Giannis, right? We all see that Giannis is going to be that guy, and it's going to be a fight, I think, between the Celtics and the Bucks, if you look at that whole side. But what surprises me is the Western Conference, and I'm surprised by that because Golden State, right? We all talk about Golden State being the team. They won it. They actually didn't win it. They did win it, right?
They won it last year.
They did win it last year. Got to make sure. Check on my thing. But they're 29-29. And for the Warriors, that's not what you want for your team. I mean, I think looking at it, though, their record at home is 22-7, and it's just basically flip-flops that is on the road. They're 7-22. So that's a big-time problem, is that you got to find a way to win on the road in the NBA. That's just in any sport you play. But the Memphis Grizzlies, to me, are a team that you cannot sleep on. That is a team that's in the West that is starting to come to play, and Ja Morant is showing everyone who he is. Ja Morant is that underrated star that just makes other players better on his team. And just one quick thing before I let it over to maybe Mendoza and J-Rob for any comment. The NBA All-Star Game was also on last night, and granted, I'll get a debate question with this about how we think about the NBA All-Star Game. It was still just offense-related, right? I mean, we had a score of, 184 to 173, so usually back in the day, NBA All-Star Games were way more competitive, right? We talk about the same thing with the Pro Bowl, right? Pro Bowl is the same situation. That is now come to a flag football game, unfortunately, now. That's not actually competitive like we want to see. So that's something, unfortunately, guess what? People like the offense, but I think people also want to see a competitive game as well. So kind of just quickly, what's your thoughts about what you think about the NBA All-Star Game from last night?
Well, I mean, you have to look at this and realize times are changing. Like, we're not going to get those competitive All-Star and Pro Bowl games anymore. Players are more concerned about their health. They're more concerned about longevity. Players are getting paid more. They want to continue to make that money, if you understand. But I also want to shift focus to what's going on around the league with the trades. You see the Clippers right now, they're sitting at number 4 in the Western Conference, but they just brought on Russell Westbrook, who bought out his contract with the Jazz. And Russell Westbrook, he's a guy who takes a lot of criticism, but at the end of the day, he still proves as an effective player. His last game he played against OKC that night where LeBron broke the record, he had 27 points on 10 for 19 shooting, and he can consistently put up numbers from time to time. And I feel like he's a good addition to this Clippers team, and that'll propel them to the top of the Western Conference at least.
The Phoenix Suns just got a big guy, KD. Phoenix Suns is my favorite team. I've been going out with them since Eric Bledsoe was there. They're sitting in the 5th seed in the Western Conference right now. With this big pickup of KD, he is going to be out with a knee injury for some time, but he will return. And I feel like the Suns are just going to blast off. I feel like they're going to get up there, start winning more games with Devin Booker and Chris Paul and DeAndre Ayton, as long as well with KD and all the other players on the Phoenix Suns.
So then let me ask you two. Just brought up 2 different huge trades, and as an NBA outsider, if you will, somebody who doesn't watch it regularly, somebody who's more on the back seat, just watching the big ticket items, Russell Westbrook, in my professional opinion, and I've watched sports going on 19 years in a row now, since I was able to actually see, breathe, and walk and, create sentences. Russell Westbrook, in my opinion, is a one-man team. And I say that respecting him as an absolute dominant player, but he's not going to be one of those guys who can just go to a super team, if you will. When he goes to a team, he needs the ball. He holds the record, all-time record for triple-doubles. Well, we've talked about this before.
Yeah.
What is the one thing you need when you need a triple-double? You need the ball. If you're going to get assists, you need to pass the ball to someone shooting. If you're going to score, you need the ball. If you're going to rebound, you need the ball. If you're going to steal, you need the ball. If you're going to block, you need the ball.
Yeah.
There's certain things that, he's now joining the Clippers. And if I believe right, they still have Paul George. And I don't know, did Kawhi Leonard retire, or is he still...
He's still
Kawhi Leonard is there.
He's still there. And I mean, you got 2 big-time players. Chris Paul, playoff piece, self-proclaimed. I mean, say what you will, but he is a great talent. He may not be a superstar, but he's big enough that you have him on your cheat sheet of who you need to shut down. Kawhi Leonard, his production may have fallen off a little bit since, the Spurs or the Raptors, but he's still a grade A player. He is still top-tier player, and he's still one of the driving forces on the Clippers. You pull in Russell Westbrook, and now you have 2 players who need the ball to score. Now you're taking away time from them having the ball. But this also may open up opportunities because, Russell Westbrook, he has that shot. He can shoot if he wants to. The outside shot, hit or miss. But when he drives, he's effective. So you get a nice drive and kick it out like we see Dante Simpson do here at Avila.
Yeah.
Or, pardon me, used to, just had his final game here at Avila. Drive in, kick it out. You got playoff P in the corner. That's 3 points guaranteed.
Well, and I'll say this, and I agree with your take when you say with how he was with the super team, because I think what it had to do is having LeBron. And when you have LeBron James and Anthony Davis on a team, I think it kind of got out not with Russell Westbrook on the team. And I think going to the Clippers now, right? Granted, he was with the Jazz, got bought out to be with the Clippers. I think that's better for him because Kawhi Leonard's not going to be that type of guy that is like LeBron that wants the attention every time he gets the ball. And I think that kind of got away from Russell Westbrook because, like you said, he's a player that is best when he goes to the rack. That is his best attribute. That's what he does very well. And I think that's also important for the Clippers because they're right now, again, in the 4th spot, just a game above the Suns, which I still think the Suns are a dangerous team because I think Kevin Durant is that type of player, all-star type of player. On any team you put him on, he is going to be balling out.
I agree with you.
Because if you think about it this way, I think Westbrook is better suited to be with the Clippers than with the Lakers.
Absolutely.
Because if you look at it, their team is structured better. Paul George is not a guy that's going to be just saying, I want to be there and be like LeBron and give me the ball. I want everything under my control. Because that's what LeBron does. When he has decisions for trades, you don't think LeBron's there?
No.
Oh, no, he's not there. He's not there. He's not there, saying, hey, I want this player or this player. Because that's what LeBron does.
There's a reason he's called Le GM.
Yeah, it's because... but that's the point. That's what I'm getting at. Is going to another team to restart. Because when he was Oklahoma City Thunder, that's what he did.
Yeah.
And that's what he did very well. And now the same thing is going to happen when you put him there on the Clippers. So I think that's a big factor for the Clippers to probably make a push with the Grizzlies right now, Nuggets as well. And I can't sleep with the Dallas Mavericks either with getting Kyrie Irving on the team. I think for Kyrie Irving to go to the Dallas Mavericks is another sign, too, because at the Nets, there was a lot of things going on with the Nets. He was having problems with the whole vaccine thing at the time. He didn't know if people were going to believe in him. And then there was other things that he didn't want to play a lot of games. And I think now for going to a new start without having James Harden there that went now to the Sixers, now Kevin Durant's gone, going to a new start with Luka Doncic, which, again, is another player you just can't sleep on anytime you see him on the court. Those two together, I think, are important for the Dallas Mavericks. Another team you've got to watch in the Western Conference.
And so we talked about one of them. The other one I wanted to talk about was KD going to the Suns.
Yeah.
Yes.
Now, I respect KD's talent. I respect that he is one of the better offensive players in the league. The only thing that I truly want to see that I don't think I'll ever see from KD, I want to see him try to one-man a team like Westbrook did, like LeBron did, like all of these greats did. Because
that's a fair point.
Aside from when KD was in Oklahoma City, which he still had Russell Westbrook, he still did. He hasn't been on a team where it's just been him. He's always moved from super team to the Nets wannabe super team to now a super team in Phoenix. He's never had to be a one-man show. Like, we see all these great players like Jordan in the 80s when he first started. He was a one-man show. You look at LeBron when he first came to the Cavs. One-man show. You look at Steph Curry, the couple of years where Klay Thompson was hurt. Don't get me wrong. They still had Wiggins. They still had Green. They still had these other role players. But, I mean, and Iguodala. But it was still Steph Curry who had to basically put the load on his back and say, I'm carrying this. I don't feel that Kevin Durant has ever had to truly just carry a team. He's always had another source of points or another source of rebounds or another source of something.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, we did kind of see it come out, that series they had against the Celtics or the Bucks. Yes, I believe that, yeah. They were up 3-2, but, like, again, Giannis is going to overpower them.
Yeah.
Giannis is going to overpower them. That's a better star. That's a better all-around team. Like, I just feel like Kevin Durant, he's been unlucky. He's one of the best talents in the league. Honestly, a top 3 talent in the league. But when he's playing against these other teams, he's playing against the LeBrons, he's playing against the Giannis's, he's playing against the Embiids. It's just better talents he's going against, and better teams around him, and he doesn't have that team around him like those guys do.
All right, and then shifting gears, moving forward into a different basketball, one that I actually watch a little bit more, is NCAA hoops. We're talking about the men's first. We usually break down the rankings or the power rankings, if you will.
As we
but
would say, yeah.
We're actually switching over into the bracketology. They have a somewhat official bracket so far. A lot of these teams really aren't going to move, but there are going to be some that do. And Max, looking at the first 2 brackets we have up, the South and the Midwest, I mean, what are some key, if the season ended today and March Madness starts today, what are some key games that you think might even be upsets or might even be close games even though they're not supposed to be?
Yeah, I mean, looking at it, I mean, the top 2 1 seeds both looks like in the South and the Midwest, according to, let's say, ESPN, right, is Alabama and Houston, which right now they deserve to be up there, right? Again, we talked about in the last show about Alabama. We didn't know, like, if they're for real or not still, but they're still showing that they're a valid force. I think Houston, to me, though, is still that dominant team.
Oh, yeah.
Every year, every time I see Houston play, they're shutting out teams and they're making plays. And again, against Memphis this weekend, Memphis is a good team. They're 20-6 this season. They found a way to beat them by 12 points, which is still very impressive. But looking at just some of the specific matchups, according to obviously what Kruck pulled up, they got Xavier and VCU playing each other. Again, those 5-12 matchups in the NCAA tournament, when you look at those two, VCU could upset Xavier. And because I've watched VCU play a couple of times, they got a big man that can play. He can shoot out from the three-point line. And Xavier's been on and off the entire year. They sometimes are really good, and then they lose a game they should not to against St. John's one time. And that's not something you want to have for your team. Memphis, Illinois, that's an interesting one to me. Again, we just talked about Memphis a minute ago. They're a team to watch. Illinois, again, their best asset. They don't have Kofi Coburn anymore.
They do not.
Remember we had a fun time with my man Justin always saying that a couple years ago. They don't have that big presence, but Memphis has got some athletes. And Penny Hardaway, how he coaches, is tough, grit, and determination. That's how his team plays, and they show it. So keep an eye on that matchup there in the Midwest. And then the South, just real quickly, you mentioned Miami, and I didn't really was a fan of them one time, and you mentioned Miami, but I'm starting to like how Miami is playing in basketball because they just beat Duke a little bit ago, a team that
They did.
You know, a team that still everyone expects to be one of the blue bloods. It's right now is a 12 seed. Actually, no, check, that was Drake. My fault. Yeah, look at the bracket. Indiana still is up there in the 5-12 matchup. They've been on and off the entire year as well. Beginning of the year, I said Indiana was a team you can't sleep on with Tracy Jackson Davis. And, I mean, I guess another matchup to keep an eye on, too, is that 8-9 in the South that right now they got is NC State and Oklahoma State. Both of those two teams on and off seasons. NC State just had a big win against North Carolina. Oklahoma State kept it close with Kansas, which right now I still think Kansas right now, and we'll look as the bracket goes on, is one of the teams that is just top of their class right now. Playing well with Jalen Wilson. Grady Dick is shooting well from the three-point line. So that's what kind of my scope a little bit of the bracket so far, Kruck. What about you? What do you got so far?
Before we move, I know you really do like Grady Dick. He's one of your favorite people to watch play and just all-around guy. I constantly hear you saying his name around the room. All right, but anyways, switching into the West and East Division, Purdue, top of the West, Kansas, top of the East. I really like Kansas right now, and I've been sleeping on them, and I'm going to admit it, I've been sleeping on Kansas. But I really like basketball they've been playing lately. A couple of upsets that I see happening in this division, I see Kent State beating St. Mary's, and I see that in a 5-12 matchup. I think Kent State's going to come out with just a beast in their stomach, right? Just a hunger that they want it more. And St. Mary's going to come out being like, oh, we were ranked too low. We're better than a 5 seed. We should have been a 4 or 3 seed. Like, we're just upset at this point. And Kent State's going to be like, we don't care. We're here to ball. We're going to outball you. What do you think?
I would disagree. I think St. Mary's the team they actually play very well. They just beat Gonzaga a little bit ago, which, again, everyone still talks about Gonzaga being right now at a 3 spot. But it's for Gonzaga people, they'll say that's a down year being a 3 seed because usually they're up there as a 1 or 2 seed for them. And I like St. Mary's a lot because they know how to play as a team. And they know how to shoot the 3, and they still got a lot of senior leaders from a couple teams back that beat Gonzaga twice in the same year. So that's something that I like about St. Mary's. You never know, it is March Madness, right? Those 12-5 seeds, they happen all the time. Looking at this side of the bracket, I'm looking here, let's see. Auburn and Pittsburgh, the 8-9 matchup in the West is interesting to me.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Because Auburn is a team that's kind of been, they won against a couple of games. The obviously SEC Big 12 Challenge, they beat West Virginia, a team that's been on and off the entire year. Granted, they not had the year that they want, but that's still a big time going to Morgantown, a hostile environment. Pittsburgh is a team that no one really talks about. In the ACC, they're kind of a 2nd seed right behind Miami in the ACC conference. So they're another team that I'm watching there in that side. And again, Purdue is a team that's been on and off right now in the Big Ten because right now they're only a game behind Northwestern, which is right there as well in the Big Ten, which
right there
surprises me in their side. Kruck getting me on there right there. God, I always have fun saying that. But Quickly, another one before we move on, I think, Kruck. Northwestern, West Virginia. That's another one to keep an eye on. They have them in Greensboro. So, again, that's another thing to watch is where they locate teams in the side of the bracket because that's a huge advantage. I think Virginia in Greensboro, North Carolina, there'll be a lot of fans for Virginia. So I think if that stands right now, Virginia would probably, I think, find a way to get through that side. So, I mean, it's going to be, it's March Madness for a reason, right? There's going to be upsets. But if you want to find the biggest upsets, it's the 5-12 matchups. Keep an eye on maybe the 8-9 matchups. Those are always fun ones to pick. And then the 4-13 ones as well.
And we're switching over to women's college hoops. I have been a huge UConn fan ever since I got to meet Coach Auriemma. And I haven't been necessarily sleeping on South Carolina because I do see their talent. I do respect them. I do admit that they are a better team than 99% of the teams out there. But there's a reason that UConn is that 1%, in my opinion. J-Rob, looking at the top of the bracket, Greenville 1 and Greenville 2, are there any teams you see missing from women's hoops or any matchups that you'd really like to see changed or altered?
Well, I'm thinking, looking at this, like, South Carolina is just undeniable right now. They're on the 27-game win streak. You can't disrespect them. I get what you're saying with UConn and everything, but South Carolina on this 27-game win streak, they've been consistently winning over the past couple of years. They've got a program going there. It's looking really bright for them. I love them.
It is. Mijo? Mijo's going to refrain. He doesn't want to.
So I'll go.
Doesn't want to get in the deep end.
Yeah, so I get it because we all have different topics, but
he's afraid to say Miami's going to win it all. You know.
I've been in Kruck. You know this with me. I've been on Stanford for a while.
Oh, this guy.
And so
this guy.
I like again. Stanford is a team that is just below level with how they play, and it's usually Cameron Brink. I think is one of the star players in women's basketball right now. And I'll say this about South Carolina. I'm worried a little bit because they almost lost yesterday to Ole Miss in overtime.
Yeah.
And a team in Ole Miss that's kind of been underrated, not as talked about. They're 21-6 right now, looking at their record. So that scares me a little bit, South Carolina, going into SEC tournament play and the tournament. But again, like J-Rob said, you can't sleep on them. They're still deniable force with Aaliyah Boston and those players. Indiana's another team right there at the 2 spot. I've watched a couple games they played against Ohio State and Michigan to the top right now, still in the top 25 here in women's basketball. They beat them up by 20 points, Krupp. That's pretty impressive to me.
Yeah, that
you
is.
Beat a team that's in the top 25 by 20 points. Now, granted, we see that with UConn a couple times. We've seen that now with South Carolina a couple times. But doing it in the Big Ten, and you and me talk about this in basketball, Big Ten kind of is one of the powerhouse teams in men's and women's basketball for kind of best basketball programs. And so I think Indiana's a team you can't sleep on as well. And Iowa, too. I mean, I'm looking at Iowa as well with Caitlin Clark. You can't sleep on them.
Man, that's the opposite of me. I'm snoring on them. I was just talking about it, thinking about it in my head. I don't see Iowa making the Elite Eight. I see somebody knocking them off before the Elite Eight. And my guess out of that corner of their side of the bracket, either South Florida or Tennessee is going to beat them, making it before the Elite Eight. I don't see them coming out of that quadrant of their bracket.
I think the style of play that Iowa brings, right? And they competed with Indiana as well. It was only like a 7-point loss that they lost to by Indiana. I think that what Iowa brings, especially with Caitlin Clark breaking all the records and everything she's doing there, is important for that team. So I think they'll go far, Kruck. But again, I think the ones you still can't sleep on, all of them are there. South Carolina, Indiana, Stanford, UConn. I mean, they're all the top 4 seeds. Wow. I mean, that's a surprise, right? I mean, yeah. So it's all of them are going to be up there in the rankings. So it's going to be fun, though, Kruck, for sure.
It will be. Moving forward into baseball, one of my favorite sports. I wish I could have played it, but that's all right. What we got here? Oh, yeah. So we're going to go baseball and then XFL afterwards, making sure everybody stays on slate here. Baseball has had some ruling changes, and let's check those out. The bases actually got 3 inches bigger, so they're 3 inches longer and 3 inches wider. And
I believe they're 18 by 18, correct?
They're 18 by 18 now. They used to be 15 by 15, and well, as we all know in this room, if we could add 3 inches onto just about anything we want to, we'd all be a lot happier as well. But the pitch clock is also in effect now, so there's a certain amount of time in between pitches allowed. and I believe it is 30 seconds.
It is 15 seconds.
Pardon me, I overshot that one as well. 15 seconds in between pitches.
Joseph's helping you out, Kruck. What's going on?
And
You're the baseball expert.
I know.
15 seconds if people are not on base. 20 seconds if people are on base.
Okay, and then if a pitcher does not deliver a pitch in that allotted amount of time, it will go as a ball.
Or a strike.
If the batter is not ready, it will go as a strike. And this has been in place in the minor leagues for some time, as well as the robot refs. You know, the robot refs, and you know, I'm touch and go on that, but you know, I don't really know the pitch clock. It's definitely going to speed up the game, which you know, the first team to ever speed up baseball, and they've come a long way from just being a ragtag team to now a household name, is the Savannah Bananas.
Oh my god.
They started with a pitch clock. They started with robot umps. And now they've done a lot of outrageous things too, but there's certain things that they're taking from them, right? Because the game is supposed to be around 2.5 hours long. That is supposed to be the cap for the game, right? Major League Baseball games that last 2.5 hours. So they're trying to get the game around 2.5 to 3 hours so they can get more advertising in afterwards, get more shows in afterwards, and whatnot. Another thing that most people don't know is that the first time the XFL happened, right? Early 2000s when the XFL first came in, they were the ones who brought in the Skycam, that camera that goes above the stadium on the wires.
Do that?
No, football. NFL adopted the Skycam from the XFL. It was not the other way around. So, you know, that's one of those things where it's like, okay, this, you know, wannabe big time league, well, we're just going to take from them and we're going to call it our own, or we're going to take from them and like give them a little bit of credit. So, you know, minor leagues are setting all of these standards and the major leagues are adopting them, and it's usually the other way around. It's usually the other way around, is when the big league makes a change and it kind of echoes down.
Well, that's good for just like, I guess, style of ruling, right? If you want to start smaller and then lead up to the big in MLB, that's great, because I think it changes the idea of, you know, different styles of what's happening. I think getting to like the pitch clock, like you said, I think that's very important, just for, it makes batters aware too, right? It's not now telling batters, you got to get up in that batter's box and you got to be ready to go and swing. You know what I'm saying? Because sometimes batters, especially in MLB, they can take their time trying to get their warm up, everything else. Now it's saying you're up there at the plate, it's time to go. So now just looking at, I mean, we're getting into spring training though, Kruck. Kind of, what are some of your teams that you're looking at though for kind of this season?
Spring training, a couple teams that I want to watch are, number one, obviously the Rangers. Rangers just picked up Jacob deGrom, and he did not throw this week because of last week because of left side tightness. You know, maybe might want to loosen up a little bit so he doesn't start ripping things and whatnot. But a couple of teams that I want to be on the watch for. One, because I'm in this, you know, state and city, the Kansas City Royals. I think they're going to be a decent team this year, or they're going to get, you know, just scalped again like they did back in 2016 after they won the World Series. They just got pulled apart. Another team that I think is going to be a decent team this year is going to be the Seattle Mariners.
I see the Kansas City Royals. They just picked up Aroldis Chapman, a nice closer from the Yankees. The Seattle Mariners, I can see that as well. I have no idea who they picked up or anyone that they picked up, but I actually saw those two teams go at it last year.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And
At Kauffman?
At Kauffman Stadium. Yeah.
Sweet. Yeah,
it was a nice game. It ended 6-5 and went to the bottom of the ninth.
Oh, wow.
I really like the Mariners this year because of Julio Rodriguez.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, people talk about the last Rodriguez to be on that team, right? The last big Rodriguez was A-Rod, the shortstop. And then he went to the Yankees to play third base, right? Well, I don't see this Rodriguez leaving anytime soon. He is going to try to win at Seattle as well as he can, and they've tried to bring in pieces around him because he is the building block, right? There's certain teams where there's certain pieces you can't get rid of. I mean, you look at the Yankees. They tried their hardest, and they got him back. Aaron Judge is back. That is the team you build the team around. You look at the Mets. Well, the Mets have a couple of players you can build around. You can build around Brandon Nimmo. You can build around Pete Alonso. You can, I wouldn't say necessarily build around their shortstop. Name's evading me. Switch hitter.
Francisco Lindor.
There you go. This is why I brought you on.
They just got 2 new pitchers as well. They got
Verlander, right?
Justin Verlander, and Max Scherzer.
Yeah, Scherzer was a last year pickup, and I mean those two.
Oh, yes.
The last 2 years last time these two were together, right? You look at the Detroit Tigers rotation. You look at that rotation. Not a single one of them won a Cy Young with Detroit, but now you look at them since they've left Detroit. Every single starter in that rotation has won a Cy Young, if not 2. So I mean, you got Verlander and you got Max Scherzer. That is a dangerous
I got a
rotation.
question for you.
Go ahead.
Best duo, you think?
Best duo in baseball right now?
Yes. Pitching wise.
Pitching wise, I'd give him my hat. Hats off to him. I mean, second place is close. You got Garrett Cole and Nectar Cortez Jr. They are going to be dangerous. But right now, Scherzer and Verlander. I mean, Verlander's speed's going down, but his control is better than ever. Scherzer's got that nasty breaking ball. I mean, the only one that comes close in my mind is Garrett Cole and Nectar Cortez Jr.
2 great pitchers as well.
But I mean, man, looking around the league, I'm trying to think of some other great. I mean, Max Fried and Spencer. Who's the Spencer guy for the Braves? I'm trying to think of his name. Man, I can't.
Yeah,
but
I can't think of the top of my head.
The Braves
but
have a couple of good pitchers. His first
Yeah.
name's Spencer. He's got a mustache. He's actually really cool. Like those two come to mind as well. I'm a Brewers fan, so I can't sleep on them.
Yeah, I was gonna
Corbin
say.
Burns and Brandon Woodruff.
Mhm.
I mean, they're both getting up in age. Corbin Burns is, well, up to basically inferred that he does not want to be a Brewer anymore because of his arbitration contract dispute. So, I mean, honestly, looking at this, I'm still going to give them the lead because Max Scherzer and Justin Verlander are proven pitchers. They're proven pitchers young and they're proven pitchers old. So they're not somebody you can just sleep on. But I don't think it's as big of a gap as some people would like to give credit to. That's what I'm trying to get at.
I have to add something about the rules as well. They are turning off the shift or taking away the shift from the defense.
Yeah, and
Wow.
I mean, I'll let Max follow up
How
this.
do you feel about that, Max?
Well, I mean, here's the thing: is that we see it all the time. Still, we watch baseball games all the time, and they have certain things that they use the shift for, and they don't use it. I personally think that if you look at, I don't think it's that big of a deal. When I look at it, and I say it's when I look at it because you go on both sides, right? And usually people are going to try to find a way to bat certain ways, right? If they got a shift on a certain way, they're going to try to bat another way. If they're going to try to find something else, they're going to look for something else in the other field.
That's the thing hard about.
I think so. If you put it on, I don't think the shift is that big of a deal. I think a lot of people look at it and they say the shift is gonna it affects people because you're gonna be right there, you're gonna get the catch. There's everyone at right field and they want to make the play if he hits over to the right side. But to me, I'm always a guy of if you can find a way and you're playing in the majors. You're playing in the majors and you find a way, if you can find a way to hit somewhere to the opposite side where they're all going toward the right, then you should be able to do that. That's how I take it as. Because you're at that style level. Now granted, guess what? Everyone can't do that, right? But I guess I take it as if you're at that style and if they're taking it away, I think it's not that big of a deal in my opinion.
Man, I'm going to have to pull a whole 180 on you, Max, because it got real hot in here when you had that hot take. But, I mean, there's guys like Joey Gallo, right? You look at Joey Gallo's hitting percentages based on right field, right center, center field, left field, and then left center.
He is a pull hitter.
He is a pull hitter. Now he does have one thing in his bag. He said if you can hit it over the fence, you can line all 9 guys up on one side of the field and it doesn't matter.
I mean,
The problem is you have to hit it over the fence. Now you look at a guy like Anthony Rizzo. This is going to keep him in the league another 3-4 years because he is not an absolute power hitter. He's a contact guy who puts the ball in play. So, in my mind, this is how I would relate it to. If you know a team is going to run the ball to the left, why would you not put more defenders on the left?
Well, I understand that point, but I think at the same time, if you know that's the case, you can find a way to adjust to that. You see what I'm saying? Is that there's always things, and we see it always in football, right? People adjust to certain things when you see a certain coverage. And if you see something in the NBA, you have to adjust to something as well. I say in baseball, if you have that strategy, right, you're knowing that, hey, I know I'm a pull hitter, I hit to the left side, I can find a way to get over to the right. That's what I'm saying. Is I think if players can do that more, then the shift's not going to matter because then they're just going to find a way to hit it over that way anyway.
Absolutely, and they're shifting the responsibilities by getting rid of the shift. They're shifting the responsibilities from the batter being, okay, I have to hit it this way now, to now they're shifting the responsibilities to the pitcher, and now the pitcher is straight up. He's like, okay, I don't have an overload of people to the right, so I can't only pitch him inside pitches.
Exactly.
I still have to go for a strikeout and not just a ground out.
They turned off the shift to make the game longer as well. They turned it off to
make
the game longer
if you're putting
and
in that
to get
regard,
fewer outs during the shift.
I mean, I'm not a fan of making anything longer. You know what I'm saying? I like if you want to try to get the game short as much as you can, you get the game shorter as much as you can. It's just that's how I perceive it, right? And especially with MLB, because some games for MLB can go long. They can go for
4
like
4
or 5 hours. So if they can find a way to cut it down, I'd say that's a bonus in anything.
And then it all comes back to the thing we say every week. All of these sports are just trying to get more offense. Why do you get rid of the shift? More offense.
Yeah.
Why do you get rid of some? Why do you make it harder to play defense in the NBA? More offense.
Yeah.
Why do you get rid of actual Pro Bowl defense and it's flag football? More offense. This is...
Well,
we're moving towards an era in sports where
Yeah.
you can no longer compare other eras to it. And before you really couldn't, but people still tried. You can no longer compare eras to this era.
not.
Thinking about that too, with all the clocks move, like all the times and the seconds that you need to get into the batter's box and the pitch. I understand that where you're coming from now. The more offense part, I could see that a lot when with NBA and the defenses and the NFL
Yeah. And I mean, my personal biggest thing, the biggest thing I hate that baseball did, and everybody can burn me at the stake for it, the pitching rule. You have to pitch for at least 3 batters or the end of an inning. Because you had people like Alex Claudio for the Brewers back in the 20-teens, who was a lefty specialist. He would come in for 1 batter, maybe a night, maybe only 5 batters a week, right? And he'd throw 5 pitches, strike him out or force a ground out, and he'd be done. Well, now with the new rule, he has to either finish the inning or face 3 batters. And I mean, that's just, in my opinion, you're taking away from the purity of baseball. Because when I bring in a new pitcher, there is no rule saying you have to keep your left-handed batter up. You could switch him out for a right-handed batter. There's no rule that says you can't. There's now a rule that says I can no longer get rid of my pitcher. So, honestly, I don't
Your
like
point
it.
is valid though. It's any league is trying to get more offensively, right? And we've talked about it. That's how all the sports are trying to be. And I think what MLB is trying to do is it just gets that regard and all that. So let's get it going, Kruck.
All right, well, Mijo's the one who actually wanted to bring this up a little bit earlier. I'll let you pitch it off, Mijo. Bring us up to speed on the XFL.
The XFL. Some of the games that went on were pretty close. We had the Vegas Vipers and the Arlington Renegades. That was 20-22.
Yeah.
That was a really close game for
Yeah,
the XFL.
the defense was amazing this
The
weekend.
defense was
in
great.
all these games, they were honestly amazing. I want to put some focus on the Houston Roughnecks defense. 7 sacks, 3 interceptions. Oh my goodness!
Oh, yeah.
They were on fire. They're on fire. The quarterback play wasn't that great for the Guardians. I'll be honest.
The Orlando Guardians.
Paxton Lynch. If you remember him from the Broncos, you remember he wasn't that good.
No.
Nothing's really changed. Nothing's really changed.
That's
Honestly.
been Paxton.
He's
The Orlando Guardians, the offensive line coach, I actually know him personally.
No way.
Yes, I do. Yeah, I should be getting some merch in soon.
He's getting some merch there, Kruck.
Ooh.
Shoot, let me get
Now,
some.
I'll just say this real quick, right? Because I don't want to keep moving, but I think it's great to have the XFL go on, right? They took the league off for a period of time. They brought it back with Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, and I thought that it brings players to want to try different leagues, right? And that's what you want to see, players still competing at that high level at their age, and you're still seeing that with a lot of these teams. As I see Mendoza's got a point. Let me finish real quick.
Go for it.
I think I kind of liked one of the games yesterday, the Seattle Sea Dragons DC Defenders. I liked that game a lot.
That was a good one.
I thought DC did a great job running the football down, and they knew what they had because Tomlin was a great coach. If you remember him from Ole Miss, He's played back in the USFL for a period of time, then played for the XFL, and then came back to play in the XFL after XFL came back, like we just talked about. DC's a good win. St. Louis, though, they came back against the San Antonio Brahmos, if I'm saying that name right. Back in the last 2 minutes, it was 15-3, and they somehow won the game back 18-15. We're wondering what's up with all these scores, right? So in the XFL, they don't have extra points. You can either go for 1 point, 2 points, or 3 points at a designated spot in the lineup. And I thought that's
huge.
And sometimes, yeah, it's very cool to see that, right? Because listen, I like extra points, and I think kickers should get some love, right? But if we have a chance to get more offense, just like we just talked about, right? Why not get more offense, right? So that's what the XFL is doing, and I like it a lot.
I don't know if y'all played the yard on Madden, but that's what kind of the XFL is kind of going for, the extra point rule. I see that a lot. Also, talking about the games with Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson bringing the XFL back, or he wants people to chase their dreams.
Exactly.
And I absolutely love that because people should chase their dreams.
And he had his famous speech when they first started camp. Do you know why he wears number 54?
I do not.
You do not, actually.
There are 53 people on the active practice squad and practice squad and active roster, and he was always number 54. So he wears number 54 to show that you can be just as good, if not better than someone else, but because of politics, because of condition, because of injury, because of any external circumstance, you can miss out. I'm a big stats guy, so I'm going to break down some stats real quick. I mean, Houston's team is leading in a decent amount of categories. P.J. Walker out of Houston has 1,338 passing yards so far, and most of those passes are going to Cam Phillips, who has almost 500 receiving yards. Looking at their defensive stats, I mean, they have number 4 right now in sacks, who's Edmund Robinson with 2. And then interceptions-wise, they have the top 2 interception leaders. Dietrich Nichols with 3, and then Cody Brown, who has 2 interceptions. I mean, this team, and I haven't even watched the XFL yet. I'll be honest. I watched the Daytona 500 yesterday instead of the XFL.
Did you see that big crash?
Oh, I did. It was crazy. But that's a side note. All right. But, like, honestly, who is really... let me rephrase this. Do you think the XFL is going to be bigger than the USFL in about 7 weeks?
Honestly, yes. Yes, because look at it's so different. People are attracted to that difference that the XFL brings. They're bringing you coverage in the locker room. They're bringing you on sideline interviews with players, coaches. They're bringing you these new rules. I love the kickoff. I love how they do the kickoff, honestly.
Yeah.
Like, you see regular NFL, high school, college football running down. It's smash mouth. I know. I do kickoff, kick return. It's real smash mouth. But, like, with this new kickoff, you're right there. Contact, the best man's going to win and make that play. It's harder to get these big collisions now in the XFL. So I really love what they're doing.
And I'll say this, is that a lot of the players that are coming from the USFL are now coming to the XFL. And if you put it in that regard, I think that's going to make the XFL keep going up and skyrocket. Because if you're taking a lot of the players from the USFL that you already have, then why not the XFL just keep going? That's what I'm saying is I think they're going to be bigger because if you're already taking more players than everybody else and you're getting the standards from like ESPN, FX, and other TV contracts that are still big companies, right? Then you're going to move up and skyrocket, which the USFL, granted, they're still played by Fox, right? They're played by Fox and NBC, which are still big-time networks, right? But the XFL, like you mentioned, has different style rules, took a lot of the players, and I think that is why I think the XFL is going to be more important than the USFL.
On one of the rules, you cannot onside kick. It would be 4th and 15.
Yeah.
To try to get a conversion to have the ball again.
Yes.
All right. I think it's an interesting rule. We're running a little short on time, so we're going to move into our final topic of the day. We are going to be talking about our our personal favorite speeches from an awards show, and Mendoza, he doesn't want to be moved to tears, so he's going to refrain from this one. It's pretty personal.
It is very personal.
J-Rob, you got one in your back pocket, or are you going to sit this one out too?
I'll pull one out.
Okay.
All right.
I got one for you.
Well, I got I got 3, so I got 2 honorable mentions and then my big one. So I'll start off with one of my honorable mentions. J.K. Simmons, when he won his award, he was in the movie Whiplash. He was the arrogant guy, the big talker to Miles Teller, who was the drummer. And when he won his best, not leading role, but supporting role, he basically gave this speech and he said, call your mom. Call your mom, call your dad. If you have somebody who raised you who is still alive, call them. Don't text them. Don't email them. Actually call them and just say thank you. Just talk to them. Listen to them. Ask about their day and genuinely care because they got you to the point where you are today. So just call them and speak to them and, for lack of a better term, just entertain them for 5, 10, 15 minutes, maybe once a week. And you will see yourself grow in ways that you couldn't if you did not. Max, you got an honorable mention, or you're just going to lead off with your big one?
I'm just going to lead off with my big one. And I've always liked this speech that I've had. I mean, I like the Stuart Scott speech, the acceptance speech from 2014. I mean, if you don't know Stuart Scott, he used to work for ESPN for SportsCenter, for the company, and he talked a lot about NBA, NFL on the network. And unfortunately, he passed away from cancer back at the age of 49. And, you know, it's just hearing him talk about it. He won the Jimmy V Award, which, again, another great speech, Jimmy Valvano. You know, it just kind of got me a little bit, right? Because no one wants to see anyone, you know, obviously cancer is one of the tough diseases and everything that people unfortunately pass of a lot. And, you know, it's just, he was one of the inspirations, too, being a sportscaster, and hearing him talk kind of got me to be what I am. Just hearing his, you know, how he was as a person. So, I mean, that's kind of how I got it with him, was Stuart Scott.
J-Rob?
Well, I got to go back to Kevin Durant. We talked about Kevin Durant earlier. I know you guys remember his 2014 MVP speech.
Yeah.
I'm a sucker for emotion and a come-up story. That's what that speech was. Mm-hmm. Him breaking down the tears, talking about his mother, like how she's sacrificed for him. Kevin Durant coming up and becoming one of the best players in the league. That's pure raw emotion right there. That's a great story. He's going to go down as one of the greatest players in history. And I just go back. I love that speech, man. Love the emotion. Like I'll go back to like guys like Ray Lewis with their emotion in their speeches. Like I just love it.
Yeah. Well, I got one more honorable mention, and then I'm gonna get to my number one speech. So my other honorable mention, honestly, this one could have went either way. It's 50-50, but I'm gonna put Jimmy V's laugh, think, and tears speech as my other honorable mention. He gave a speech. It was the first ever Jimmy V speech given, and he basically said, if you can laugh, think, and enjoy your emotions to tears every single day, whether it's tears from happiness or joy, that'll be a full day. And if you can do that 7 days a week, you will be a changed person. You will become somebody who is more in touch with their humanity than somebody who is just an athlete or a person or a coach. And then my winning speech is one that I honestly think about probably every week. I honestly think about this every week, and it's Matthew McConaughey. In 2014, he won the Oscar for lead actor from the movie Dallas Buyers Club. Don't know if anybody in here has seen it. It was a good movie. Yeah. Well, obviously not one of my favorites, but I mean, he literally said, he talked about 3 different things, and the last thing he talked about was my favorite. His teacher came up to him when he was 15 years old and said, "Who is your hero?" And he said, give me a couple weeks to think about it. Comes back to the teacher and he's like, "My hero is me 10 years from now." So when he turned 25, the teacher came back, texted him, called him, met him up, whatever. And he said, "So are you your hero now?" And Matthew McConaughey's like, "No, not even close." And the teacher's like, "Well, you said 10 years from now." And he said, "No, 10 years from now, as in every second, every hour, every minute of every day, my hero is still 10 years away from me because I will never be the person I am striving to be because my potential keeps rising." Yeah. You know, and a couple of things he said, that keeps me with someone to keep chasing. Because if you quit chasing after perfection or after what you can be, then you're stuck with the person that you just are. So didn't really mean to end it on like
words of wisdom
a
there,
somber
Krunch.
note, but I mean, you know, we talk about sports a lot and we always have fun at the end of it. So yeah, so you heard all these inspirational quotes. Actually call somebody today. Don't just text them, don't email them, don't direct message them, actually call them. Until next time, Jake Krugenberg, Max Williams, Mijo, and J-Rob, we're signing off. Everybody have a great day. And don't forget, the XFL is real football, so is the USFL. Don't bash them on social media. If you do, we'll find you. Goodbye.